All right, and we are recording. So like I said, you can get the slideshow at the short link we see at the bottom of the screen here, bit.ly/advancedgs. It is case sensitive, so capital A and capital GS. And that will get you the slideshow for today. If you're here live with us, I'm going to have you go ahead and sign in for me. I'll put the link to the sign in page in the chat. Of course, if you're watching this as a recording, you don't have to worry about signing in. But if you're here live with us, please do go ahead and sign in for me. I just put that link in the chat. And go ahead and just give a click on that. And go ahead and sign in, drop your email and name, and then pick the session for today, Advanced G Suite Part 1, February 24th. And then just you can pick if you're going to do this just for a certificate of attendance, or if you want to start to earn graduate credit, you can also do that. Give you guys a moment to get all signed in for me. And like I said, this whole slideshow covers both the part 1 and part 2. On the very first slide here, you can just click on which part you want to jump to. For today's session, of course, we're just going to focus on part 1. So let's go ahead and get underway. Of course, if you're here live with us, please feel free to type in the chat if you have any questions. You can also unmute yourself. I have that option on, so if you want to just unmute yourself and interrupt me and ask a question, that is totally fine. We have a small group today, so feel free to just jump right in. And we'll go ahead and dive in here. So welcome everybody to Advanced G Suite Part 1. I should actually kind of preface this by saying pretty soon it's not going to be called G Suite anymore. Google's kind of changing up the name of G Suite. Now they're changing it to be called Google Workspace for Education. So that name will change a little bit, but the tools and everything still work the same. It's just kind of a brand name change. But all the principles, again, are all the same idea here. So, of course, welcome to our session for today, everybody. My name is Dan Neeson. I'm a technology integration specialist at Neonet. Here's my email, dneeson@neonet.org. So if you have any questions, that's probably the best way to get a hold of me after the session today. Of course, if you're here live with us, feel free to ask any questions that you have along the way. And again, if you're live with us, please go ahead and sign in if you haven't done so already. And we're going to go ahead and jump into our to-do list here. So in our 2.5 hour-ish session that we have here today, here's our big 4 things that we'll tackle. So we'll take a nice good look at Google Keep. Then we'll look at Google Drawings, Google Forms, and Google Sheets. And if you're here with us for the basic G Suite sessions, the layout's the same. Basically, we'll jump into one tool. I'll show you kind of all around big things to know how to do, and then we'll take about a 10 or 15 minute kind of working break where you can kind of try out some of these things that we talked about, just kind of poke around and kind of play with it. And we'll just kind of repeat that for each of these 4 items here. All right, a couple other things here just to mention before we dive into our first tool of the day here. It's always a good idea to keep up for what's new in the Google world. So this link here will take you over to the update page, and you can see all the new things that Google is doing. Of course, Google recently is updating a whole bunch of stuff in the Google education world. So all these pages and stuff that I've linked here on these first few slides are useful for you to check out. So if you want to stay on top of things, or if you're just trying to figure out how to do something specific, these sites are also a good place to check out. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into our first tool of the day here. We'll go into Google Keep. So this one kind of flies under the radar for a lot of people here. Has anyone here used Google Keep before? Has anyone used it in any capacity before? Sharon says no. Got a couple no's. All right. So this one, like I said, yeah, it kind of flies under the radar. And if you use this, like I personally kind of use it a lot in my personal life. It's good for making lists and things like that. But it's also a really good organizational tool. So we'll kind of talk about what that means here in just a moment. So let's talk about what it is here. So of course, to get started, to get to Google Keep, you of course go to the name of the app.google.com. So in this case, it's keep.google.com. Of course, you can also find it in your waffle menu. So of course, your waffle menu is when you open up like a new Google tab, and you go to this little grid up in the top right. You'll find Google Keep in there somewhere. There it is for me. You can also install the Chrome extension. We'll talk about what that does in just a little bit as well. And you can access Keep within G Suite apps in the Tools menu. And you only have one Keep page for all your notes. And we'll talk about how to organize all this stuff here. So essentially what it is, what Google Keep is it's a way for you to keep notes and reminders, and you can share these like sticky notes out with other people, and you can set reminders for them. So it's really good, like general organization tool. One of the kind of good practical applications for it is using it as kind of like a shared bookmark library with other people. So if you've ever had the occasion where you're working with somebody else on something, and you have like a list of websites or references that you need to share with someone else, you might like drop all these links into an email or into like a Google Doc or something like that, and you could easily lose those things, kind of lose track of them. And this is kind of one of the nice things that you can do with Keep here, is you can save all these bookmarks in one place under this what they call labels, and then you can share it with other people, and then they'll just have kind of a shared place to keep all these notes, keep all these links. You can even do drawings. We'll talk more about drawings and all this stuff in just a little bit. All right, so basically we just start typing into this little take notes bar. We'll go ahead and jump into Keep in just a minute here. And you can also add checklists, you can insert images, you can create a drawing, you can also set reminders, you can add collaborators, like I said. You can change colors to kind of keep things organized, add labels to differentiate them and kind of put them into different categories. You can also add drawings and checkboxes from this little three dots lower menu. All right, so let's go ahead and actually just jump into Google Keep. I'll use my little waffle here and jump in to Google Keep. All right, and so you can see I have a bunch of stuff sitting here already. So here, starting up here in the top left, under this notes page, is the first page you'll come into. It's kind of like your home page that shows all of the notes that you have all in one spot. So you can see I have like a bunch of links and stuff saved here. Got some pictures, got some like ideas for these different things, right? Then going down the left-hand side, this is where you can set your reminders. This is where, if you set any of these notes to have a reminder, this is where they'll show up. And then below this, I have all these unique labels that let me categorize all these sticky notes that I'm taking. Okay, so of course you can edit labels, and if you're familiar with like Gmail labels, it works the exact same way. It's just a category that you can put things into. And the nice thing about it is it's a little bit different than like a folder where you move an item from place to place. So instead of it only being found in one place, a single item can be found in multiple places. So for example here, if I have, this yellow reminder here, it's like a list of things to do, right? And I see it's in my my reminders label, and maybe I also want it to be in my first period, because maybe that's what this this reminder is actually for. So I can set a label by going to these little three dots. We'll do change labels, and we'll also set it to this first period. And now this thing will also be found in the first period label, and not only there, but also in the I think I put in my reminders label as well. So again, you can have things show up in multiple places, so it's a lot easier to find. All right, so let's back up and take a brand new note here. So of course, up in the top middle, this is where you can add your note, and you can add in a title and a note. So maybe I'll just do maybe I'll say, maybe if I want to do something like, learning objectives for week of March 1st. Okay. And then in the body here, of course, I can start putting in my different ideas, whatever I want. And maybe for this sort of thing, maybe I would do a checkbox. So I go under my little more label again. And here, I can also do show checkboxes. Now I can just add these different list items here. And then I'll say, chapter, 3, section 1, vocab. Then we want to have them do, worksheet 3.1. And you can put it all, of course, all these different items. Okay. Now notice I just clicked away and it kind of disappeared on me. Notice these top few items here are under this pinned label. It's not a label. I should clarify. The pinned here is just pushes these particular items up to the top of our notes homepage. But if we scroll down a little bit and going to this others, this is where we will still have our thing that our note that we just made. And again, from here, we can add in a whole bunch of other stuff here. So, of course, this is where we can set a reminder for a certain date and time. This is where we can also add collaborators. So we can add this to another person. The person we share this to will get an email saying, hey, you've been shared this note. You want to open it? And they can go and open it. So, of course, that's really good if you work with another teacher or if a student teacher or a special ed teacher that you work with, whatever it is. Then you can share all those notes kind of in a nice, easy way. This little art palette here will let you pick a different color for the sticky note. You can also add an image in here as well. It just pulls a picture from your computer. So if you wanted to drop in a picture onto kind of associated with the sticky note, you can do that as well. You can also archive it. So if you don't really need the note anymore, you can archive it. And then under the 3 dots, just kind of other things to show this where you can permanently delete it. This is where, of course, where you can add a label like we saw. If you want to add a new label, you just start typing in this section right there. If you want to create a new category, new label. You can also add a drawing. So this is a nice, easy way to get a very simple whiteboard. So if you're doing some, maybe like a flipped lesson, for example, and you want to have some drawings that are kind of pre-made on your screen, this is a really, really easy way to do it. That way you can draw out whatever you need to on here. And then of course, it's just going to save it along with your other notes here in Google Keep. And you can have these drawings up and ready. So you can just, save them instantly. Kind of a handy little thing. So in this box here, you can do little screen capture shots here, your eraser, and your different types of pens. You can also add in different kind of backgrounds like dots and squares or like lined paper. Okay. Once you're done, you can also come up to this little 3 dots up in the top right, and you can do export as an image. So if you want to save what you draw here as a picture, it'll download it to your computer as a picture, and you can go drop it in other places, whatever you want to do with that picture. It is yours to do with as you please. All right. So if we're just doing, for example, here, maybe just like some algebra. Okay, and you can create these little problems, and you can be walking through how to solve these equations or how to do this or that, whatever you want it to be. All right, and then once you're done, there's no saving or anything you have to do. Just back out of it with this little arrow up in the top right. It'll be saved here on the note. We can close out the note, and now this sticky note has a drawing attached right to it. All right, if you want to go back in there, you can also grab image text. So this is kind of a cool thing. If you grab that, it'll grab the text image. It kind of reads it as best it can, and it'll drop in so that you can take that text and drop it into. You can drop it into other places. So it's kind of an imperfect thing, but it works kind of well. But anyway, so if you want to, we can go back into my drawing here. You notice if I have multiple drawings, I'll be able to flip between them at the bottom here. So if I want to have another one, for example, maybe I'll change the color of this one. Maybe I'll do blue this time. Okay. All right. Then I have another drawing in here. And again, if I just back out, now I have multiple drawings attached to the same sticky note. And again, I can save those as pictures. Again, do with them whatever I please. And notice down here, it'll save that text in there. All right. A couple other things here. You can also copy what you have in the sticky note into a brand new Google Doc. So if you have something in this sticky note that you initially made just as a quick note, and then you want to convert it over into a Google Doc so you can just expand upon it, we'll go into the three dots and then do copy to Google Docs. And it's going to take just a moment here. And it's going to open up a brand new Google Doc. And we'll go ahead and click on open. And it's going to copy over the information that we put into that sticky note. And it's going to drop it here into our Google Doc. All right. So it's kind of a simple way to kind of start an activity. So if you've ever wanted to be able to, for example, be able to draw on a Google Doc, this is another easy way to do it. So if you want to start with some like drawings that you make and then start making a worksheet from it, this is an easy way to do that as well. All right. All right, let's jump back here. Now, you may have noticed that this little sidebar will pop up at certain points when you are in Google Docs or Google Slides or in Gmail, and you may have noticed that the little Google Keep symbol is there. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. So like back over here in my Google Doc here, like it's collapsed right now, but if we come down way down to the bottom right, there's this little tiny arrow way down there in the bottom right. And we click on it and this little side panel opens up, and in here we have calendar, we have keep, and we have tasks. You may have some other ones here depending if you have any other tools that you use. But of course we have a keep one sitting here for us. Let's give that a click and see what it does. So if we open this up here, this opens up like a little mini version of keep right here in Google Docs. And again, this same little sidebar is going to show up over here in keep. It'll show up in slides. It'll show up in Gmail. I believe it shows up in Sheets as well. And so, of course, you can look through all your different notes that you have in here. And the cool thing as well is if you have something that's over in here, like maybe, for example, this sticker, this little picture here, we can just drag whatever we like and just drag it right on top of our Google Doc here. And of course, this will work for this will work for slides and sheets and stuff too, like I said. And so this is kind of another kind of fun use for Keep, is just kind of using it as a storage, kind of like an online storage for pictures that you use often. So if you find yourself using the same pictures over and over again that you're dropping into, Google Docs and whatever else, you can save those pictures over in Google Keep like we talked about, and then just access them from this little sidebar. You can just drag them over whenever you need. So if you're grading in Google Classroom and you want to drop in this great job sticker, you can still do that. If you are just making presentations and stuff, and you again find yourself using the same pictures over and over again, and again you can just drag them right on over from here. All right. Now let's jump back over here again. All right. You can also use Keep as a comment bank. It's the same idea as we saw with pictures, but instead of a picture, you can just use that as like a kind of an unofficial comment bank. So of course, if you're familiar with Google Classroom, the comment bank when you're grading there kind of does that function for you. That works better than what we're talking about here. But for other reasons, if you're just in a regular Google Doc, not like associated with Google Classroom, it's a handy way to be able to save yourself some time and not having to write the same things over and over again. Or if you send emails, the same email like template over and over again to parents or something like that, you can just have that little sidebar in Gmail, drag over what you need from Google Keep, so you don't have to type the same things over and over again. And of course, here's a bunch of other ways to use Keep in the classroom. Of course, just collecting and organizing information for papers and presentations, daily reminders, using them to bookmark websites, note-taking, setting your learning goals, entrance or exit tickets. Of course, there's lots and lots of different ways to use Keep. One more thing I want to show before we do our first break time here is let's talk about the Google Keep extension. So I'm going to jump over to Chrome Web Store here. And the Google Keep has its own Chrome extension. And so here it is here. I'll put the link in the chat for you guys because I think I forgot to put it on the actual slideshow. And so what this extension does is it'll let you quickly save whatever web page that you're on as a Google Keep sticky note. And so let me go ahead and pin it here, and then we'll go take a look at it. Where'd you go? Where are you, Keep? It's always hiding from me. There you are. Okay, and let's go out to a website here. So let's go off to, I'll just go to like weather.com just as an example. And so of course, if I want to save this website, I can just click on the little extension icon for Google Keep. Come on. Oh, hang on. It's going slow. Let me give this a refresh here. Come on. Yeah, let me try a different site here. I think my computer's just going slow here. I'll just do like ABC News. Hang on a second. Sorry, guys. My computer's kind of slowing down on me here. Are you guys still able to hear and see me here? I think I lost connection for just a second. Okay, cool. All right, so let's see if this works now here. Just want to pull this one up here so this will open for me. It's just going super slow. All right, well, in this case here, I'll just kind of show you some pictures here. So what it's supposed to do, I think my computer's just running a lot of stuff, so it's tired and yelling at me. So anyway, so this is essentially what it does. You'll just click on the Chrome icon when you're on a page. It opens up a little pop-up here, like we see in this little picture. And you can also add, it's going to save that whatever website you're on, whatever the web address is, you can add a note to it. You can also add a label to it, and it'll be saved right into your Google Keep. All right. And so it's a really nice, easy way to use, it's going to use Google Keep as a bookmark saver. All right, that's all it was. It was going very slow. It made it way more complicated than it should have been. But that's essentially what there is to the extension. So let's go ahead and break into our first kind of open work time here. Google Keep's a pretty short one. This one's pretty easy. It's a very simple tool to use. So let's just take 10 minutes here. We'll come back at 10 after. And take a few minutes here and let's practice with making some notes, maybe using sticky notes as bookmarks, so using that extension. You can, of course, experiment with different labels, kind of however your brain works best to keep things organized. Maybe set up a comment bank for common things that you end up typing in Gmail all the time over and over again, or a photo bank. So a lot of pictures that you use over and over again, you can save them there. You can color code, of course, your different sticky notes that you make. All right, so let's again take about 10 minutes here. We'll come back at 10 after. And if you have any questions, let me know. Recording. All right, so any other questions, again, feel free to let me know as far as Google Keep goes, and we'll keep on rolling here over into drawing. So something with a little more fun stuff that we can do here, some actual activities and things here. All right, so let's jump into Google Drawings. Have you guys used Google Drawings before? Another new one to you. All right. So essentially what Google Drawings is, it kind of like how it sounds, it's kind of just a blank canvas that you can just draw stuff on. So if you ever just need a simple, like really simple image editor, or a really easy way to make like a graphic organizer, things like that, this is a really easy way to do it. It's essentially just like a single slide from a Google slideshow, so you can basically do all the same stuff. All right, so like we said before, it's to get over to Google Drawings. It's the name of the app.google.com, so drawings.google.com. Of course, you can also get it from your Waffle. You can also get to it from your Drive as well. So if we go into our Drive here, just real quick, I just want to make this point. If you click on the big old plus new button up in the top, and if we go under more, there we'll find Google Drawings. So lots of different ways to get to the same place. So again, drawings.google.com, go through Google Drive, or you'll also find it in your Waffle. All right. So this is just telling me this little pop-up here. This is a new thing. You may have noticed if you've used slides recently and you made some text boxes, what this little pop-up is telling us here is now you have different ways of resizing text boxes so they fit. So you have different options. We'll cover that as we go. All right, so that's how we go ahead and open them up here. And like I mentioned before, you can save your pictures that you make here. Again, it's a really nice, easy way to edit images. And we can save them as PNG or JPEG or PDFs. And another thing we can also do is create a drawing inside of a doc or a sheet. So we'll kind of talk about those couple of things here. So let's start by just doing something real simple and moving it over into like a Google Doc, for instance. So I'll just do this like I'll just do a Venn diagram. Simple thing here. And we'll go ahead and draw out our shape here. So again, all these buttons that kind of go across the top, they probably look really familiar because they're the exact same buttons, same layout and everything that you see over in slides, just here in drawings. Like I said, drawings is basically just like a single slide from a Google slide. All right, so let's go ahead and make a little Venn diagram here. So I'll draw my first circle, something like that. And I'll go ahead and copy paste. I could also do Control D to duplicate. I could also do that. And we'll just try to line them up as best we can. And of course, we want to make the inside part transparent so we can see the middle part of the Venn diagram. Here's a nice little trick here. If you need to select more than one item, so like right now, I want to pick both of these circles to make them transparent at the same time. What I can just start doing is, as long as I start by clicking and holding my mouse over nothing, so whether it's off here, off in kind of no man's land off to the side, or even on the canvas, this little checkerboard canvas, as long as I'm hovered over nothing and then click and drag and touch this blue box here onto the shapes that I want, it'll highlight everything that it touches. All right, and so now both those circles are highlighted. Now I'll change up my fill color. I'm going to make it transparent here. So that's that first option right there. That way we have a nice clear inside. And I'll highlight these both again. And maybe I'll make the color of the circles a different color here. So maybe if I'll make them like blue. I can also change the border thickness here. These little lines, thicken them up a little bit. And there we go. Try to line these things up as best I can. Use my little red guiding lines that come up here to kind of make them fit as best we can. And there we go. So super simple Venn diagram. Now, like I mentioned, like we said here, you can create a drawing over in drawings and then put it right into your Google Docs. So let me show you how to do that. So let me go ahead and make a new Google Doc. I'll use my little handy shortcut here, docs.new. That's a nice little quick little cheat or shortcut there to make you a brand new Google Doc. That trick works for Google Docs, slides, sheets, forms, and sites. But anyway, so let's go ahead and put this Venn diagram over here into this Google Doc. So all we have to do is go up into the Insert tab of the doc. We're going to go into this one called Drawing. And now we have we have a couple options here, one called New and one called From Drive. So you can actually make a drawing right from your inside the actual doc itself here, and just opens up like a little mini version of drawings right here in the Google Doc. So if you want to just do the drawing from in here, you can do that. Or of course, if you kind of pre-made the drawing ahead of time, you can just do Insert and Drawing, and we'll do From Drive. And once this loads up for me here, there we go, there's our Venn diagram. And notice we have these couple of options here. So link to source, only editors can update the drawing. Collaborators can see a link to the source. And what this will also do is it'll also update it in real time as well. So if you are completely done with the picture, you can do unlinked and it'll just drop in the picture that you make in drawing. It kind of has like a static picture that's not going to change. Or you can link in the source and then changes can happen over time. And also collaborators can also make changes to the drawing itself. All right, then we go ahead and drop it in, and hey, there it is. It's it's dropped into our Google Doc as a picture. And of course, we can resize it, move it around, do whatever we need to do with it. Okay. Then again, back over here in the doc, if we change the color, for example, make it red over here, a little update button shows up, and hey, now it's red. Okay, so like I said, anytime if you have it linked, anytime you make changes, it'll be updated over here. You just have to click on that little update button that shows up when you click on it. Or of course, you can open up the source. Pretty cool stuff there. All right, so let's jump back over here. So another thing you can also do is, like I said, you can save your picture, save your drawing, I should say, as a picture file. And so if we come back in here, and if we want to just save this as a picture file, so we're going to come down to download, and we have these couple of different choices here. So everybody knows what a PDF is. You have these two different image types. You have a JPEG image and a PNG image. There's not a huge difference between these two as far as Google Drawings goes. But the biggest thing to know is if you want your picture to have a transparent background, you'll want to do a PNG image. Okay, so again, what I mean by a transparent background is we're not going to have any sort of background, like any sort of plain white background or anything. So if I did this picture as a PNG, all that would be on there is just these red circles. That's it. Okay, if I did a JPEG, it would give it a blank white background. You can also do an SVG file. These is another type of picture file. In most cases, you're probably not going to have to use them. They're scalable pictures, so no matter how big you make them, the resolution doesn't change. But for our purposes, you're probably not going to use it that often. So usually you'll probably just stick between JPEG and PNG. All right. Next thing here, you can adjust the canvas size in the file menu and then and also page setup. So if we go under file and scroll all the way to the bottom here, we're going to do page setup. So file and then page setup. This is where we can set up the canvas size here. So we can have it be a standard 4x3 square. We can have it be widescreen 16:9. That's the aspect ratio. So most screens that are out there are 16:9 widescreen aspect ratio. There's also a 16 by 10, which is slightly different, kind of like the movie style. And then custom is where you can put in a custom ratio, dimensions, I should say, dimensions for your canvas. So you can set them up in particular inches, centimeters, points, or pixels. Now, depending on what you're trying to make, you may need to make a drawing a certain size. A good example of this is if you want to make your own customized paper activity, paper worksheet, you can create the Google drawing here in the same shape and size as a piece of paper and then just print it. So what we would do is pick inches, and then we just make it the size of a piece of paper. A standard piece of paper is 8.5 by 11 inches. So it's 8.5 by 11 inches, and click on apply. And just like that, it makes it into the size of a piece of paper. And then if I wanted to go print this, of course, just go up and print just like normal. And it'll give us this little preview. And it's kind of just a preview of what it would look like. Okay. And of course, if you have more stuff on here, if you have different activities, if you have some instructions, of course you can put these text boxes. They're all free roaming text boxes and things that you can kind of put wherever you like to drop in any sort of instructions or pictures or whatever you want to have in here. Okay, so you can kind of imagine there's a lot of different things that you can do. As far as the setup of the page goes, you can also just stretch it out to whatever kind of fits for you. So notice in the bottom right corner of the canvas, we also have this little, kind of like these little triangle thing down here at the bottom. And we can drag this out and stretch it out to whatever kind of dimensions that you like. It's of course not going to be exact, but if you're just trying to fit it, and if you're trying to make like just a custom like digital activity, the dimensions aren't really going to matter that much. It'll just matter depending on what you want to actually fit on screen. Okay, so if you want the canvas to be like really big and fit like most of the screen, you kind of just stretch it out to fit the screen as best you can. All right. You may have noticed down in the very bottom right, we also have this little side panel guy. So again, if you want to pull things over from your Google Keep like we talked about earlier, you can still do that. So if you have your image bank or your comment bank or whatever it is from over in Google Keep, it still works there as well. All right. And a couple other things here. So if you want to change the background of your canvas here. So of course, as you can see, we just have kind of like a plain checkerboard background. If you haven't seen this type of background before, that's just like this gray and white checkerboard style. That's just telling you it's a transparent background. That's what that looks like. If you would like to bring in more transparent images to kind of keep it a transparent background, if you're trying to create some sort of graphic or something like that, you can do a search in like Google, and if I'll just search for dog, and if I search for do a Google image search, and what I can do when I'm searching for images, I can go under tools, and then I can go under color and pick transparent, and we can go look for these different pictures here. And let's just drag this picture over here. And as we drop this picture of this dog in here, you'll notice he still has that like checkerboard around him. So if you can see, it might be kind of hard to see through Zoom, but he'll still have this checkerboard around him. There's no background to this picture. Okay, so you can still pull in lots of different, transparent pictures that are out there. And if you want to combine several different transparent pictures together, again, when it's time to download it, just do file download, and then PNG will give you that transparent background. Now, one other thing I want to mention here, if you find a picture that you like that does not have a transparent background, I'll just kind of show you this cool tool. So if I have this picture of this dog here, let me go ahead and just kind of, I think I actually don't even have to download it. There's this really cool website here called remove.bg. This has nothing to do with Google. I just kind of wanted to bring it up because it's a really handy tool. This website is called remove.bg. and it will automatically remove the background of a lot of images pretty easily. I believe you can, I don't think you have to actually download the image in the first place. Let me double check. Yeah, so you can just drag a picture over from Google Images, drag it on over into this website, and hey, now this dog, which originally looked like this, it had like a gray wall behind him, had all these, now it just has this checkerboard design behind him. Okay, let me try one that has a little bit more stuff on it. So like this dog, he's sitting in a bunch of grass. Let's see what this one looks like here. So let's go back over here. And there we go. So I did a pretty good job of removing the background from this dog here. You can go further and edit it, and you're able to either erase or restore things from this button here. So if I want to erase, like this ball thing out of his picture, I can just kind of wipe it away. Kind of like so. Okay. And so, of course, then you can have a backgroundless picture here. And we can copy this image and bring it on over into our Google drawing. Okay, so again, of course, as you can kind of imagine, there's lots of different things that you could do with just having all those transparent images at your fingertips there. All right. So other things here, you of course can also make all sorts of different drawings. You can also free draw. And so if we go into our little drawing line here, do the little drop down next to it, and we'll pick the one called Scribble. This one lets you free draw on here. So again, easy way to just kind of draw out whatever you need to draw. Again, it's always kind of hard to draw with a mouse, but especially for me who already has bad handwriting. But that's how you can draw freehand. So again, that was just under this little line arrow, and then you can go under and pick Scribble. And of course, you can insert shapes, text boxes, lines, word art, other things. Word art, I'll show you real quick, since word art is kind of a funky thing, especially if you're used to word art like in Microsoft Word. So if you want to do word art, we have to do insert and then make word art. And it just gives you this little simple box up here at the top. And all that you really do is just type in whatever you want in the box. And then it basically makes your letters that you type in here, it treats them as if they were, it makes them treat them as if they were pictures. You'll see what I mean here in just a second. So, so if we want to make like a meme, for example, so we'll have, like top text. And if we want to make another line, you hit enter and shift. Or shift and enter rather. Maybe we'll do a couple of lines here. Okay, and it drops it in. And at first, it kind of looks pretty normal. But what I meant when I said it treats this as a picture, treats text as a picture, is when you resize it, it doesn't like change the font size per se. It just changes how much space it's filling. So as you can see, you can kind of squish it over like this, or you can make it like really wide. Okay, so as you can see, it kind of stretches the text out in kind of a different way. Okay, and I'll just give you the tip here. If you want to set up like a meme template for kids to make, the proper quote unquote proper ways to do meme format is you do all caps. So these are actually supposed to be all caps. So I'll have to retype it here. So we'll do top text. I'll do bottom text. And the font is impact. The fill color is white, and the border is just black. You can thicken it up a little bit if you need to. But that's pretty much the quote unquote proper format for putting in creating a meme of your own. So if you want kids to do like a fun, just dumb, meme activity, you can give them a simple activity here in Google Drawings, and it's just their job to drop in a picture or maybe change the word art here to kind of fit whatever you're talking about. When you already have word art made, you just double click on top of it again, and that'll open up the editor, this little box down here, and you're able to make whatever changes to the text that you want. Okay, pretty simple stuff. That was just kind of a goofy, kind of fun thing that you can do with drawings. Of course, like I said, you can create a drawing in Docs and Sheets, like we talked about. That's just that mini version of Google Drawings, like we talked about. And of course, there's lots and lots of different ways to use drawings in the classroom. So you may want to annotate or label an image. So for example, let's take, we'll pull in from images here. So let's do insert and images here. So of course it has that same little image item there. And so if we do map of, let's do actually blank map of USA. Okay. And of course we can annotate this image to add in whatever we like. So if we want to draw in maybe little call outs that point over to different states or things like that. So we can draw little call outs. Here's Ohio. And we can just make multiple ones. And make another one for Florida, and so on and so forth. Okay, so kind of a simple, very simple thing here. And of course, it doesn't have to be a map. It can be any sort of activity that you need to annotate or make a diagram for. So whatever sort of background picture that you want, this is a really easy way to make a diagram. So if you teach science and you want to do parts of a cell, put in a blank picture of a cell, and you can create these little point boxes here for students to fill in. And you can make this an activity if you want, or if you want to just this to be part of another thing, you just need to make the actual like graphic for it, the actual picture. Of course, you can do that as well. All right. You can also make lots and lots of different types of graphic organizers. There's pre-made templates in here that you can also do. So if we go to the insert menu and go to diagram, there's several different types of pre-made diagrams that are in here. So again, those insert, and then diagram. Then you have several different ones here. You have like a grid style, hierarchies, timelines, processes, relationships, and cycles. So you can drop in whatever style of graphic organizer that you like, and you can drop in whatever you want. So if we drop this activity in, and just has all these kind of filler text things in here, and we just fill them out with whatever information that we need. Okay, and of course we can resize them again by doing that little select trick where we kind of start in no man's land where we're not really hovered over anything, and click and drag and highlight whatever we need. And we'll grab this, and maybe I'll just stretch it out here, kind of put it up here, and then make it bigger so it's nice and big and easy to see. And there we go. All right, so just like that, of course, you can make lots and lots of different types of graphic organizers. Right. And of course, you can make these hierarchies, timelines, you can do Frayer model activities, you can do KWL charts, you can do things that you have students fill in items. So you can put these Google drawings through Google Classroom, just like you would with any other regular assignment, and have students actually do things on these Google drawings. Or again, you can just use them as kind of visual aids for your regular like direct instruction to kind of supplement whatever you're talking about. So here's this diagram that we're talking about, or here's this picture, and here's the different parts that we're dissecting, whatever it is that we're trying to do. Okay. So of course, lots and lots of different uses for Google Drawings in the classroom. Like I said, graphic organizers, labeling images, making posters or infographics, timelines, making comic strips. You can even make a digitized version of your signature, designing a logo, creating your own clip art, all this different stuff. All right. If you would like to make a custom banner for your own Google Classroom, here on slide number 19 is the link for you for a template for that. It's already set up here, so you just make a copy for yourself. And this will give you the right dimensions, and it gives you the instructions for how to make your own banner in your Google Classroom. When you're done, you can, of course, add in whatever you like. And when you're done, you just go into your Google Classroom. And if you want to change the banner, you'll go into whichever class that you want to change. So here's my 2020 Google Classroom here. And we can do upload photo here in this top banner. This is what we're replacing. So, of course, Google has some like these default ones, but if you want to be fancy and make your own, you can select a photo after saving it from your drawings and then just upload it right in there. So, of course, you can add in whatever you'd like. Okay. All right. A couple other things here before we break into our next little open work time. There are a ton of templates for other sorts of Google drawing activities in particular. You could, if you do a 3-second Google search, you'll literally find hundreds and hundreds of like graphic organizer, particularly templates for Google Drawings. Big things, especially from like Ditch That Textbook and Control-Alt-Achieve, you'll find a ton of them. So just a quick Google search, if you just do like Google Drawings, graphic organizers. Right here, we find 25 plus another 30. There's another 10. There's another 25, and there's another 25 there. So you're gonna find a ton of these. The vast majority are going to be free. You can look at what they look like. Ditch That Textbook is a very popular website, so all the stuff he gives he always gives away a bunch of awesome free stuff. So you can see all these different examples here. Just a quick Google search, you can find all these different examples, and they're all free. And you'll just get your own copy of these things. So there's timelines and KWL charts and cause and effect chains and fishbone planners and word maps and flow charts, all this stuff. If you find anyone that you like, so if you like this flow chart one, for example, you just click on the template, it'll make a copy and you'll own that copy. And then of course you can do whatever you want with it. So like what we see right here, this flow chart, I did not make this, Ditch That Textbook made this, but just going through that website right there, boom, you get a full template ready to go. You won't have to sit there and make all these little boxes and make everything the same size and do all this sort of stuff. So that can save you an absolute ton of time. All right. So that's the last thing I just kind of want to mention as far as that goes. All right. So let's go ahead and do our next little break here. So we'll do another like 15 minutes or so. So again, if you want to make your own custom Google Classroom banner, again, the template here is on slide number 19 for you. Maybe practice with making a comic or a meme, inserting a GIF. Oh, that's one thing I forgot to show here. I'll show that real quick. Let me go ahead and jump back in here. I just want to show you how to make a GIF real quick. There's two ways to do it that I'll just show you. I just wanted to show. The first way is you can use the Giphy extension. I found that one is really, really easy to use. There's a Chrome extension just called Giphy. It's really easy to use, and you can just pull in, there's hundreds and hundreds of GIFs that you can do. So you can pull this right from the Chrome Web Store. And so, of course, if we have this open here, let's go ahead and open up Giphy. There you are. Pin it there. And so Giphy will open up here, and then you can search for whatever you like. How about happy? I don't know. You just drag in whatever item that you like. It'll drop in both the original link and the GIF itself. The original link is just going to be in a text box, so you can just delete that part away, and it'll keep the GIF in here. Now, to be clear, you won't be able to download this as a GIF. So if you do download it, it will just be a static picture. It's not going to include the moving GIF. But if you want to have GIFs in here, if you're keeping it just as a digital activity, of course, you can drop GIFs in that way. The other way to drop in GIFs as well is if you just do a regular Google search And if you just do a Google image search and then just drop the word GIF in there at some point in the search, you can just drop in, just do a search and you'll find all these different pictures. And then from there, we can just drag them on over into our over into our drawing here. And there he is. Okay. So you can have multiple drawings in here as multiple GIFs rather here in your Google drawing. All right. All right. So then, of course, you can also save it, practice with saving it as a JPEG or a PNG. And again, PNGs will give you the transparent backgrounds. All right. So let's again take about 15 minutes here. We'll come back at 3:55 and take some time and practice a little bit here in Google Drawings. If you want to see something specific, or if I didn't cover anything, or if you have any questions, of course, let me know. And again, we'll come back in about 15 minutes. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump into Google Forms. Again, since we covered a good amount of the stuff in the basics, we're not going to go too deep into Google Forms, like as far as the basics goes. We'll still cover some more advanced stuff here. All right, so just some basics just to get them out of the way here. So of course, you can open up a brand new Google form from your drive. You can also set up these, there's also pre-made like templates that you can use. Of course, before adding content, it's a good idea to go into settings and customize your quiz if you're going to set it up as a Google form quiz. And of course, the only difference between a regular Google form and a Google form quiz is that the quiz will have auto grading where you can select correct answers. It'll have an answer key, and you can set point values for each question. And of course, there's 3 tabs of options. You can do general, presentation, and quizzes for all those different options that you can do. Okay. You can also do default settings. So if you end up, making Google Forms quizzes and different forms over and over again, you can set the default settings here. So if you want to have like a default point value, you can do that as well. Whether or not it's going to collect email addresses, whether questions are going to be required to be able to submit the form, that sort of thing. I do want to mention one thing that was just recently announced for Google Forms specifically. It's going to be rolling out over the next probably a few weeks. Google Forms will now save progress, meaning students do not have to do the Google Form quiz all in one sitting. So they'll actually be able to do a couple of questions in the form and then go leave, completely close out of it, and come back later. It'll save where they left off. Sharon asked in the chat here, where do we find the links to these recordings? Those are on our YouTube channel. You can find them on our YouTube channel or on our website at training.neonet.org. So both of these sites here. So on YouTube, our channel is Neonet Tech Integration, or you can go to our website, training.neonet.org. And if you go under the PD on demand page, that has all of our different recorded sessions. All right, and then of course, going back to Google Forms here, again, without going into a crazy amount of detail, because we kind of covered it in the basics session. Of course, these are all the different types of questions that you can do. The big 3 that you'll probably do most often are also the 3 that you would do that you can set to auto grade when you're doing a Google Form quiz. Those are your multiple choice, check boxes, and your short answer questions. Those 3 kinds you can select an answer key and have it auto grade for you. You can still ask those other types of questions when you're doing a Google Form quiz. They're not going to be auto graded, but you can still use them. Then you can just grade them manually. All right. And again, we covered this in more detail in the basics session. Okay. Then of course, entering quiz content, you can add as many options as you want for those like multiple choice or checkbox questions. The other option in multiple choice questions allow students to fill in a option that doesn't match with what they wanted to say. Then, of course, setting correct answers in points. Again, you'll go into the answer key, and then you can select the correct answer and add answer feedback and change the point value from there. Okay. Then, of course, sharing your quiz, you can share it out through the regular share link, or, of course, put it through Google Classroom. All right, so that was all the kind of the basic stuff basically that we covered in the earlier session, G Suite Basics. So now let's go ahead and transition over to the more advanced stuff in forms. Let's take a look at how to assign a quiz through Classroom and how grade importing works. All right, so we can create a quiz in Google Forms, and then we create an assignment in Classroom, and we attach the form from Drive and assign it. You'll notice from this picture, if you can kind of see it down here, there's this little button here called Enable Grade Importing. And what that's going to do, it's going to take whatever score that students get and however many points are possible for the whole Google Form quiz, and it'll carry those numbers over to your Google Classroom gradebook. All right, so let's kind of walk through that whole process here of doing that. So let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and find a quiz here. And you know what? How about we just make a new one? That might just be fine. We'll just make a new one. Let's just make a brand new one just to be fancy about it. I'll just call this, simple math quiz. Okay. And let's go ahead and make this a quiz by going into settings. I will just use this in my organization, so I'll keep it down, no response receipts, and it is going to be a quiz. And I'm only going to ask multiple choice questions. I'm going to turn off those things there. Okay. And I'll just make a very simple little quiz here. So I'll do, 2 plus 2. And another question. Okay, and we'll do one more. Okay, then we'll go ahead and set our correct answers for each one. That one's 4. Answer key. 7 for that one. And then 4 plus 5 is answer key. There we go. 9. And we'll say done. And done. And done. All right. It's always a good idea just to do a little preview. 2 plus 2 is 4. 7. And 9. Cool. Okay. So now we have our quiz made. And one thing we'll want to always do as a good rule of thumb, I mentioned this in the in our basics session. It's always a good rule of thumb to make your very first question here. I'm going to drag this one up here to the top. I'm always make this first question a short answer question called name. You can give it a point if you want. I'll even just set this one to 0 just so I don't have to grade it. Okay, and that way I'm going to know who said what. It's already collecting email addresses, yeah, but sometimes depending on how your school writes email addresses, it might be hard to tell who's who. And so there we go. So now we have a very simple quiz all made. So now, as we can see, we have a total point value of 3. And now we're going to go ahead and put this quiz over in Google Classroom. And we're also going to, let's do this one here. We're also going to import the grade that students get over into the Google Classroom gradebook. All right. So as we can see, in this Google Classroom I have a bunch of stuff already in here. That's all right. So let's go ahead and make an assignment. So I'm going to go ahead and create an assignment just like normal. So if you're familiar with Google Classrooms, making making an assignment, same process here. And we're going to go ahead and do add, and we're going to do Google Drive. We're not going to pull in the link because if we pull in the link, the grade importing won't work. So it does have to be pulled in from Google Drive. Okay, so just a heads up about that. All right, there we go. So there's our simple math quiz that we just made. Okay, and again, we'll turn on this option for grade importing. And again, that's going to pull over the total points possible and the points earned that students get. And because we're doing that, it doesn't really matter what we put over here for points. So that one doesn't even actually matter. Okay, set a due date if we would like, and we can put under a topic if we'd like. So if I put it under, homework, we'll go ahead and assign it out. Okay. Now let me make sure I have students in this class. I do. All right, perfect. So let's go and jump into a student's account and see what it looks like from their perspective to go in and do this quiz. So they're going to go ahead and jump in here. Into class, I think it's this one. Let's see, there it is. So there's our math quiz. And so let's put in our name. And then I'll get one wrong just to kind of pull over to show the difference here. 7 and then 9 and submit. Okay. And now I'll actually do the other student here. So we'll get both their grades pulled in. And here we are as the other student. And they're going to go and do this quiz as well. And this was Betty. And she'll get them all right here. Okay, and of course that's all that students really have to do. Now, so now that we have that assignment done, or posted rather, we're back now on the teacher's perspective. And of course we can see that we have 2 turned in because 2 students have finished that item, finished this quiz rather. And now we can see, hey, we have Andrew and Betty. Those are my students that are in this demo class here. And we can see that we don't have their grades pulled in yet. We can actually see it's out of 100 right now, when over here on the quiz, it's only supposed to be out of 3. The reason for that is we have not imported yet. Okay, so you do have to manually click on this button up here, import grades. All right, so it's on this page that you're going to import the grades over. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do import. And there we go. So notice Andrew got his score. He got 2 out of 3. Betty got her score. She got 3 out of 3. If everything's all good, if I like what I see, then I can just return it back to those students, leave them any comments that I like, and return it on back. Their score is now in the grade book. All right, so that's how grade importing works. That's kind of a nice little detailed look there. All right. Of course, viewing responses and grading. So of course, when it's time to do some grading for a quiz that you do through forms, of course, you'll just come back to the form itself where you came to create it in the first place and go under responses. And then from in here, best one to do is grade by question. That makes the grading the easiest to do. That way you can grade through a lot faster. You can also grade in the traditional way under individual, and you can look at how each individual person responded. Okay, so if I want to see how Andrew responded, I can see exactly how he did his quiz. Okay, but again, in most cases, it makes the most sense to do question. The reason is when you grade by question, you're grading that question for everybody at the same time. So that basically that means if a student gives the wrong answer for a question, every other student that answered in the same way they're also wrong, so it marks them all as wrong. Same thing if they're right. If a student answers a right the question correctly, every other student that gave the exact same answer is also right, and that will mark them all as correct. All right, so that can save you a whole bunch of time. Of course, when you do only multiple choice, like we did here, that makes it, of course, a lot easier because they're just very objectively correct answers. So that's very easy to auto grade. Okay, and that's basically what there is to grading a Google form and doing the import grades over into Google Classroom. All right. So again, here's kind of some more details about grading in questions by question or by individual. Again, here's where you can adjust your point values. You can give individual feedback as well. This is also where you can release scores back to students individually, or again, you can pull them over into Google Classroom. So students would be able to look in both ways. All right, now here's something a little bit different. You can create multiple sections in a Google form. Now, what this does is it will let you split up the form into different parts that students can jump around to. And you even have the option to have students go to certain places in the form based on what you actually, well, based on how they answer. So let me kind of show you what I mean here. So let's take this simple math quiz that we made here, and we want to kind of have some built-in intervention into this quiz. And what we want to do is make it so where when students come and do this quiz, if they answer this, first question incorrectly, it takes them over to a different part of the form where they get some intervention, whether it's just some notes that you leave for them or they like watch like a video, and then they come back and try this question again. Okay. And it'll just basically repeat that process for each question. All right. So let's talk about how to do that. So to do that, we're going to split up, we're going to create multiple sections. So to do that, we come over to our little floating rectangle over here on the right-hand side, and we'll find this add section button. And this is going to add another section or another kind of like another page to our form. This is what it'll look like. Let's do a preview here. After a student gets to that part, notice it has this next button here. So it's not just one big long page in the form. It's now multiple pages that students flip to throughout the form. Okay. So let's kind of run with this idea here. So like I said, if students get this answer correct, it'll just jump to the next one. If they get it wrong, I want them to go get some intervention. They watch a video or leave them a note, and then they can try it again. So what we'll do is in this next section here, I'll call this one, help for question 1. Okay. And in here, maybe I'll leave, or maybe not a question. Maybe I'll leave a video in here. And in here, search for a video on basic addition. Okay, so we'll drop in this video. So maybe I'll say, watch this video, then click next to try question 1 again. Okay, now the way that we tell the form to send students to the video if they get the question wrong is by something called by turning on this option called go to section based on answer. So the way to get to that option is just go back to the original question here, and we're going to go to this little 3 dots at the bottom, and we're going to look for go to section based on answer. Okay, and this will work for multiple choice questions. This will also work for checkbox questions or drop-down questions. And now for the incorrect questions, we're going to send it over to this section. For the correct questions, for the correct answers rather, we'll just send them to the next question because they already got it right, so they're good, so they can go to the next question. All right, so of course 2 plus 2, that one's, if they pick 1, that's wrong. So they're going to go to help for question 1. If they do 2, that one's also wrong. They'll go to help for question 1. If they say 3, that's also wrong. Help for question 1. And then for 4, they'll just go either to the next section, or you can tell them which specific place to go. Now, like in this case, I'll probably want to make another section for these other questions. So let's go ahead and make another section here. I'll call this one question 2. And I'll even make another one here for question 3. Okay. And maybe even I'll add a little label here. This little T here is, 2 T's. This adds like a little, kind of like a little label or note at the top of a section. So I'll call this one question 1. Okay. So then we basically just repeat that process for each question. So I have my first question, my help for question 1. Then here's question 2. And then I'll go ahead and make another section here. This would be help for question 2. And then I drop in a video, or if I want to just give information, again, I can also just do those little 2 T's for title and description. So if I remembered, use your addition sheet for help. Okay, whatever feedback or help I'm going to leave for them. Okay, and you'll notice there's actually a little option here underneath these help parts that let us pick where we're going to go after this help. So after help for question 2, I want to make sure it goes back to question 2. Okay, same thing for the help for question 1 section. I want this to go back to the help for question 1. Okay, and again, we just repeat this one more time for our last question. This is help for question 3. And maybe this one's another video. Okay. Now you'll also notice that there is no little drop-down option after this one. So if your page ends, if your form ends on kind of like a blank thing like this, what you'll just want to do is just make one more empty section. And you don't even have to name it anything. You can just kind of leave it untitled. And then that will give you another drop down here on this last one. Then we can make this route back to question 3. Okay, so to summarize, there's a lot. I know there's a lot of stuff here, a lot of steps. So to summarize, we started with a quiz just like normal, and the goal is to make a Google form quiz where when students answer a question, if they get it right, they just go to the next question. If they get it wrong, then they will go to like some sort of intervention. Okay, and so it works just like this. So they'll put in their name, then they'll start answering the question. For the first question here, if they answer it correctly, they'll just simply go to the next section, or to make it easy, we can also just say go to question 2. That'll also work. If they get it wrong, though, then they'll go to the help section for this question, which is this area here. After they watch this help video, it's going to take them back to question 1, so they'll bounce back here, and then try again. It's basically a loop from there. Then once they get it right, it'll jump them down to question 2. And again, here we'd have to go into the 3 dots and select go to section based on answer. And again, if they get it wrong, they're going to go to help for question 2. So this one's 7. All right, so help for question 2. 7 is the right answer. Oops. And so they would go to question 3 if they get the right answer. And help for question 2. All right. And that's pretty much what there is to it. So it's kind of like almost like a self-grading type of activity here. And so this is what it'll look like. So I did a little preview here, and they'll put in their answer. So I'll get this one wrong, click on next, drops me into this video. And even if they click back or next, either way, it'll take them back to this video. Oops, I must have clicked the wrong thing here. There we go. It's the wrong answer. We'll take them over to the video. It's always good to give it a little preview just in case you put in something wrong. And there we go. We continue on answering. And again, if we do the wrong answer, it'll take us to the help page. And then it'll take us back. All right. I kind of goofed because I was going quickly here. So always make sure you have a routing back to the correct place. Right, so that was supposed to go back to question 2. There we go. And so again, this is kind of a way for you to kind of have kind of almost a self-grading Google form, which you can already do, but this one's going to add that intervention directly back to the student, so they get that instant feedback. If they know they're wrong, instantly they get that intervention, whether it's in a video or a note that you leave for them. You can also leave links here. That's one other thing I'll mention here. So if you do something like this here, where you drop in, use your addition sheet for help, or you can drop a link in here, just paste in a plain link. Students can also see that as well. Okay. All right. Any questions on that? I know that was a lot of stuff there. Any questions on that? Let's see. Sharon says, how easy or complicated is it to sync form, quizzes, classroom to progress book / gradebook? Is there a question for another day? Yes, there are videos on YouTube about it. The cool thing is you don't have to do grades individually. You can do them all together. I might as well mention it now. I made a video on it a while ago. It's on our YouTube channel here. It's worth knowing. So I'll put this on screen here. Let me find it. It's in here somewhere. Here we go. This video here. Google Classroom Progress Book Sync. This shows you how to do it. It's not specific to Google Forms. It's Google Classroom that communicates its. It's Google Classroom that communicates its grades over to Progress Book. Right. This is Progress Book specific. So if your school uses something else like Power School or one of the other ones. I don't have a video on that form. I believe Google is putting out more and more tools out there that let you connect with Google Classroom to your SIS. Good question. All right. Other couple of things here is you can also do something called response validation. Now, this is another thing that you can do that's particularly useful for short answer questions. So what response validation means is it will require the form taker to meet certain conditions. They would perhaps have to match a certain word or phrase, choose a number of particular options, or leave some sort of specific feedback when conditions aren't met. So let me show you what I mean here. Let me just make a brand new form again here. And so this is going to be really useful if you are doing a Google form quiz and you are asking like a short answer question and you want it to auto grade, but you're worried that students are going to type in kind of the wrong thing, even though in their minds they have the right answer. So what I mean by that is you can require them to type in something specific in order to even like technically answer the question. Let me show you what I mean. So let me go ahead and turn this on to make it a quiz here. And I'm going to set this to a short answer. And we'll put in, what is the, current year? Okay. Simple example, right? And so in this short answer question, of course, we'll put in our answer key and we'll put in, of course, 2021. That's the right answer. That's the only right answer. Okay. And now what we can do is we can turn on what's called response validation. So if we go to the little 3 dots down here for a short answer question, this will also work for checkbox questions as well. I'll show you how those work in just a minute. If we do response validation here for a short answer question, this new line here comes up and we have all these different options. So in this first one, it will require students to either type in a number, text, have some sort of certain length, or a regular expression. A regular expression just means they have to match a specific thing. Since this one's being auto-graded anyway, that one's not as big of a deal. So pretty much the big 3 that you probably usually do is either a number, meaning they have to type in a number, text, meaning they can only type in letters, or length, it has to reach a certain amount. Okay, so in this case here, I only want numbers, okay, because I just want them to type in 2021 as numbers. Okay, and then I can also choose all these different options for how I want to narrow it down from there. So in this case, it can be greater than or equal to, etc. Or we can just say it is a number. Okay, so I want them to put in a number, not text, not letters, and I want them to, and the only other qualifier is it is a number. That's the only thing I want them to do. It doesn't have to necessarily be greater than or equal to or a whole number or anything like that. Again, because it's being auto-graded anyway, like we said. Okay, now for the custom error text here, this is a pop-up that students will see if they try to type in something that does not meet those conditions. So maybe I'll say, you know, please only type in a number. Okay. And now let's do a little preview to see what this will look like. Okay, if they try to type in something else, notice that we get this little pop-up here. Oh, please only type in a number, just like I said. Okay, and then this will go away as soon as I type in a number. Even though, you know, it's the wrong answer, it's still a number, so it's meeting that condition. And hopefully that's making sense. Now, the other thing you can also do is, like I said, you can do response validation for checkbox questions. And this is really nice if you want students to pick a certain number of checkbox questions. So for a question that looks something like this, so, you know, which 3 will result in a sum of 10? And let's change this into a checkbox. And again, the only difference between a checkbox and a multiple choice is checkboxes let students pick multiple options. Okay, and so, you know, we'll put in, you know, 8 plus 2, 3 plus 7. I'll put in a kind of a decoy one. We'll do 4 plus 4. And we'll do 5 plus 5. Okay, and now we'll turn on response validation just like we did for the short answer question. So we'll turn on response validation. And again, now we have this extra line here, and we can tell them to pick select at least, select at most, or select exactly. And because of the way I asked this question here, which 3 are going to result in a sum of 10, I'll say select exactly. And then the number field, I'll say 3 because I want them to pick 3 options. Please pick 3 options. Okay. And now we'll do another little preview here. And again, if I only pick 1, again, I'll have that little warning there. And even if I pick one of the wrong answers, it's still going to, that warning is still going to go away. Doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. All that matters is I'm picking the correct number of options. Okay. All right. Any questions on response validation or anything else that we talked about so far today? Again, that one kind of has a lot of steps to it. All right. One other thing you can also do with response validation is you can also password protect your forms. So what you would essentially do is add a new section to your quiz. You would add a short answer question, and then you just title it like password. you'd click on the question settings in the bottom right corner and turn on response validation. Then in that little line, you choose the option called regular expressions. Remember, I mentioned that one earlier. Then you insert your password in that third box, and then an error message in the fourth box, kind of like we see in this picture here. And then that's pretty much it. And students will only be able to get to the rest of the form once you give them the password. All right. So this is kind of a way to ensure that students only get into the form once they have the password. So it's kind of a workaround type of thing. So if you're not using Google Classroom and you kind of need the form to be out there to be taken, you can do that. Or if it's not even a Google form quiz, it does not have to be a quiz to do this. It could be a regular Google form, and maybe just trying to do a survey or something like that. And you don't need it to go out yet, or you don't want people to respond to it yet. You can just hold off on giving them the password until you're ready. Okay. A couple other things here, since we're kind of low on time here, it's already 4:30. There's add-ons, of course, that you can get for Google Forms, just like you can get for docs and slides and sheets and all that good stuff. Here's a few good ones here on slide 36. We won't have enough time today to go too far into them. One I'll just mention real quick, that's my favorite, is called Form Limiter. That one is really nice because it will automatically close the form at a certain point in time or after a certain number of responses. So essentially what it does for you is it flips this switch right here for you automatically, either at a certain time or after a certain number of people have responded to your form. Okay, so we'll flip it on, flip off this option rather. So it's going to stop accepting responses. Okay. All right. Since we're already at 4:30, let's just kind of forego our work time for forms, and then we'll just blast through for Google Sheets. All right. Any questions before we transition over to Google Sheets? All right. All right. So again, in the basics session that we did earlier, we cover a lot of the good basics in Google Sheets. For our purposes today, we'll just kind of hit some of the top advanced features in Sheets. You know, of course, Sheets is such a huge, gigantic tool that it's impossible to cover everything. So for our purposes today, we'll just kind of narrow it down to the things that we have on screen here. All right. Again, here on slide 39, I have an example sheet for you that has some just some dummy data in here that we can kind of play with here. So let's go ahead and make a copy of that. If you want to follow along as you're watching, feel free, or if you want to just watch me, that's fine too. And here's the things we'll look at. So we'll look at saving filters. So again, in the earlier basic session, we looked at making filters. We'll also look at how to save them. We'll also talk about functions and formulas, a few more. We'll talk about conditional formatting, charts and graphs, the import range feature, whether it's from a different tab or from a whole different spreadsheet. And then we'll also just mention flippity real quick. All right. So again, let's jump into our first option here for saving filters. So let's go ahead and do, let's do this one. Let's do the roster tab. Let me make sure I don't have any filters saved already. That's fine. All right. So like we talked about in the basic session, if you watched that, filters, of course, let you hide away things that you don't need to see, so you can just focus on the items that you actually need to see. And easiest way to get it started, of course, is clicking on this little square way up in the top right, and that will highlight the whole sheet for you. Then we just click on our little funnel option here. This is our filter. And then we'll filter out by whatever column that we like. And again, as a matter of good practice, it's always good to set up a spreadsheet from top left to bottom right. And so across the top row will be your different categories. So of course, you know, here I have my students' names and their guardians' names and their address and their homeroom and their grade and lunch and their phone numbers and all this stuff. Okay. And if you get the references for all these people, good for you. I was really it's hard to come up with a bunch of fake data, so I was just thinking of TV shows and stuff. But anyway, so let's say, for example, we want to filter out by students' lunch type, for example. So we'll click on the little triangle next to lunch, and then we'll filter out by values here. We'll clear out, and maybe we just want to see the students that get free lunch. Okay. And for these students here, I don't want to have to turn on the filter every time, do those like 3 or 4 steps we just did every single time just to see the free students. So what I can do is come up to this little drop down right next to our filter icon there, and we'll do save as filter view. And notice kind of this black bar comes in across the top, and way up in the top left, we have a name. And here is where we can put in a custom name for it. So we'll say, you know, free lunches. And then we can even close out of this. We can even turn off the filter, go back to our like original view. And if we come back later, come back the next day, close out of it, whatever, all we have to do is click on the little drop down next to the filter icon and click on free lunches. And it's going to jump back right into that filter. And we can make multiple filters like these. So if we make another filter, and maybe we'll do by the reduced lunch, and we'll save this one as well. Okay, that one will be saved there for me. We can filter it out by a whole different category. So I'll turn that one back on for everybody. And maybe for this one, maybe I'll filter out by homeroom. And I'll maybe for this one, I only want to see, Mr. McCartney's homeroom. And so I can even make different filters based on completely different categories. So McCartney, homeroom. Okay, so again, you can make all these sorts of different filters for whatever sort of categories that you need. So you can just jump over to whatever filter that you like. Now, one other thing to mention as well, notice keep an eye on the URL here. Keep an eye on the web address. When I change to a different filter view, notice it changes. And so the benefit of that is we can take this link here, copy it, and we can just copy that link and go share it with collaborators, or depending on the sharing settings for this sheet, anybody if it's available. And when they open it up, it'll open up right into this view. So for example here, if I have this Google Sheet set up where it is, let me set it through my organization. Anybody at NeoNet that has the link can view this form. Okay, and so if I take this URL now and then I go and use a different NeoNet account, so like Andrew here is another NeoNet account, and I give him that link, it'll now open up not only that tab, it's going to jump over into that filter view as well. Okay, and now I just showed him jumped him right here into this reduced lunches thing. So if this is a big spreadsheet with a whole bunch of stuff in it, I can filter it down, copy that link, go send it to another person, and they can see that specific part that I'm trying to show them. All right, hopefully that's all making sense. All right, next thing here is functions and formulas. All right, so again, in the basic session, we covered a good bit of some basic formulas of kind of doing some basic arithmetic here. Real quick question in the chat here: will that person be able to open the whole sheet or just the filtered part? Yeah, they would be able to open the whole sheet because when you share the link out to them, they have access to the whole sheet. So yes, they would be able to close the filter and view it from there. If you wanted to hide that information from them, if you wanted to only take a small part of a larger sheet, that will actually kind of lead us over to our kind of the formulas that we're going to talk about here. So if you want to kind of hide a certain, or let me rephrase that. If you wanted to only show somebody a small part of a larger Google Sheet, and you want to make sure they're not able to go and click around and go look at other stuff, you have a couple options. Probably the first option is to hide the sheets that you don't want them to see. The way to do that is, like, for example, maybe you only want them, the person you're sharing this with, to see the roster tab, for example. We can hide all these other tabs that go across the bottom just by clicking on the little drop down, and we find hide sheet. Notice it says all editors of the spreadsheet can view and reopen those sheets. So again, if I want to hide all these other guys here, so I'll hide him, hide all these guys here. You get the idea. And then I go in and share this same link out. Again, these are I'm only giving them viewer access. And so even if I share this over to somebody else again, this is what they'll see. So of course they see the sheets that aren't hidden. So notice I had a bunch earlier. Now there's only that roster Q2, Q3 budget one. And if they knew there were hidden sheets, of course they can click on this little button here and they can see these other options here. They're grayed out. So even if they try to click on them, they're not able to open them because they're only a viewer. So that's one option for hiding sheets from people. Now the other option, like I mentioned, is carrying over that information over to a Google Sheet, to a completely separate file. So that's why I opened up a brand new blank Google Sheet. So we could easily just copy this information, copy, boom, come over here and paste it in. Paste it in, and there you go. You might have to format it a little bit, but that's another option. And the third option, which is the most complicated, but it's using a formula called import range. So it's kind of fancy. So it's linked here on slide 39. And so what this video, it's actually a video. What this formula does is it will take the information that's on one sheet and it'll carry it over to a completely separate document, and it will continue to update it in real time. Okay, so if we do equals import range, here it says, let me open this up here. So importing range imports a range of cells from a specified spreadsheet. And so what we do is we do import range, the sheet URL. So you would take the URL from the original sheet, paste it on in here. Okay. Then we do a comma. Then we do the range string. And so the range string is this kind of part here where it's going to be the name of the tab at the bottom, or the sheet at the bottom, with an exclamation point, and then the range of cells. The easiest way to get this number here, that phrase, is by coming back to the original one, highlighting the information that you want, and then I believe we can go here. Yep. This is kind of a new thing in Google Sheets. This little box up here will show you the name of cells. And what we're looking for is these different options. So notice it kind of automatically gives you these different names here. The one you're looking for is where it says roster, because that's the tab that we're on, with an exclamation point and then the range of cells. Okay, so like in this case, what I kind of have here is not exactly what I want. So that one doesn't work super great because I want to have A1 to J16. That I want all of that. So that one's actually giving me the wrong stuff there. So what I also want, another way to do this, I suppose, is going under data. And then what we'll look for is named ranges. And because I have this information highlighted here, here's that named range. Here's now that's the area that we're talking about. So from here, I can copy this, bring it on over in here, paste it in here. Oops. Paste it in there and drop it in. Now, this one, I think you're supposed to have a quotes, I believe, over that. Yeah. Oh, and we're supposed to have quotes over that as well. So we have to have quotes over the URL and quotes over that range string as well. And we have to turn on allow access, and then there we go. So now this information is updated in real time over into this other spreadsheet. As you can see, it might be a little bit of a pain in the butt to do, but if you want to have that information kind of show up in another sheet, that's how we can do it. All right, let me check the chat here. Let's see, Sharon says, does it work conversely? If the person you shared the individual sheet edits it, will it feed back into the original? Good question. No. So it is just one way. So if they want to change stuff in here, if they change, our first student here, change his grade to 10th grade, notice what it does. That stuff is basically the static as far as the receiver is concerned. Okay. If I change, I'll change on the original one, I'll change Bruce Wayne here into a different grade back on the original one here. So here's Bruce Wayne. I'll change him to 12th grade. Over on this page now. There we go, just updated. And now he's in 12th grade. So the receiver will be able to see the changes. They're not going to be able to make any changes. Okay. So again, a lot of steps there, but just follow the directions that come on the import range, like a little help page there, and shows you how to do it. Again, I think the trickiest thing is just being able to find the range string. So that's always kind of the trickiest thing. So again, I'll just show that again real quick. Just highlight the information that you want. I wish this little tiny box up here kind of worked better and actually showed you everything. But from here, you can highlight everything. I think you can actually go into named. Yeah, you can also just click on the little drop down from this little box up here, and then also click on manage named ranges. That will also open up that same little side panel that we went to earlier. And then what we're looking for is this one down here. That's our range. And we can just copy that and bring it over into that other file. Okay. That was the kind of the big tricky formula to know. One other thing to mention as well, you can also import a range of cells from one sheet to another within the same file. So what I mean by that is if you have information in one tab at the bottom, so like in this roster tab here, and I want the same information to show up over here in this other new sheet that I just made, all that we have to do is do an equal sign in the destination, and then keeping that equal sign in there, we'll click over to the other sheet, and notice now we kind of have this little floating guy here, and then we just highlight whatever information that we want, and then just hit enter when we're done. Oh, I'm sorry, we have to highlight. I forgot we have to highlight that information. You kind of have to match the size in the destination as well. Okay. It's a little bit easier if you just do it by column as well. It kind of works kind of funky like that. Yeah. Usually going by an individual column or row works a little bit easier than a whole big range, because then you have to match up the size of cells. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, last couple things here before we wrap up. I'll just go into conditional formatting real quick, just with respect to kind of how we have this this grades page here. So under the quarter 2 tab, I have a bunch of conditional formatting going on here. So what we have is, let's kind of just take an example. So there's like this first kid here, she has 950 out of 950 points possible, points earned for the class. So she has 100% in the class, she's an A, hooray. And watch what happens to the colors of her percentage and her letter grade once I change her score. So maybe she only got like, 730 out of 950. Right there, it changed up not only the color of her percentage, but also the actual percentage itself, and it changed her letter grade. So the way this works is with conditional formatting as far as the coloring goes. We'll talk more about the grade letter here in just a moment. So what we have is conditional formatting to change the formatting of the cell. In this case, it's just the color. So to set up conditional formatting, we'll just highlight the cells that we want. Then we go into format, and then we find conditional formatting. And as you can see, we have a bunch of rules already set up. And basically what we have is, I'll just kind of take the A rules here. In this first one here, we have a rule set up. If there's a number between 0.9 and 1, meaning 90% or 1, so remember you have to write in decimals here, it's going to customize, it's going to make it this custom color, so it'll be green, and maybe I'll even make it bold, so you can make those changes, or italics. Or if I don't like that green, I can make it a different color of green, whatever I want. Okay. So again, the conditional formatting will set up the background color, or the color, or the color size of the font, that sort of thing, based on conditions that you have set. Okay. All these different rules have, there's lots and lots of different options that are in here. So if the cell is empty, if it's not empty, if there's text in there that contains such and such. So you have all these different options depending on how exactly you're trying to, what exactly you're trying to format. Okay. Now, the other thing is, you also notice that there are these letter grade ones as well. So let's just take like the, maybe the C letter grade. And there's a formatting rule called text is exactly. And if it has a C in that spot, it'll customize the color to this like yellow color. Okay. Now you'll also notice, like I talked about before, the letter grade changed automatically based on the percentage that's in there. So the student, she now has a C in there, or if she got, maybe like an 800. Notice it changed not only to an 84%, but also put a B in that spot. So what's happening with those actual letter grades? What's happening is this custom formula here. All right. So this is another type of formula called an if formula. And so here's kind of essentially the way it works. So it's going to evaluate multiple conditions, meaning it's looking for different particular things that you tell it to look for, and it returns a value that corresponds to that true condition. So if we kind of examine this formula here, we have the if formula, and then if what we have in E2, let me close out of that. If what we have in E2, which is that the coordinates of this percentage right here, if what we have in that E2 is greater than or equal to a 0.9 or a 90%, write an A in that spot. If what we have in E2 is greater than or equal to a 0.8 or 80%, write a B, and so on and so forth. It kind of just continues on from there. Right, so that's how you can get it to automatically drop in a letter grade for you. Again, you won't have to write out that formula. This, if you have a copy of this spreadsheet, again, the link is on slide 39 there for you. You can just copy that over for your own purposes. You don't have to write the whole thing out for yourself. All right. So with that said, I will kind of open it up for any other questions here on Google Forms or anything that we covered so far. Since we're at the end here, we'll have to kind of forego our last open work time here. But any other questions over anything that we covered so far? Any questions or any thoughts? Let me know. All right, last couple of little tidbits here before we call it a day. One thing I always kind of like to say at the end of these types of sessions here is, when it comes to Google stuff in particular, I think I like talking about this idea of thinking backwards, of really just having a goal or an idea in mind. And chances are there's a G Suite app or tool that can do that for you. Now, Google Sheets is a really good example of this kind of idea. You don't have to know every single thing that Google Sheets can do. That's not in your job description. It's not, you don't have to know every single thing that Google Sheets can do. You just need to know the things that Google Sheets can do for you. And that's kind of the idea of this thinking backwards. You just need to know the things that you need to know, okay? And just figuring out how to do those specific things. All right. And the more stuff you learn, of course, the more you're going to know, the more you can share with other people. All right. And of course, technology is meant to make your job easier. Use it to solve problems and make a better classroom. Technology is not the focal point of any lesson or activity, or it's not the focal point of your teaching. It's not the focal point of education. It's there just to help you. Okay. And now we'll go ahead and pretty much call it a session here. Any other questions, of course, feel free to shout out. But there's our to-do list. We went over Google Keep, drawings, forms, and sheets. Here's our upcoming sessions coming up over the next week here. So feel free to check out those. Those are all free to come to as well, like this session. If you're interested in graduate credit, just let me know. This page has all the information there, but if you have any questions about that, of course, let me know. And that will pretty much bring us down to the end here, everybody. So if you're watching this as a recording, thanks so much for watching. If you are here live with us, thanks so much for coming today. If you have any other questions, feel free to shout out. Again, email is the best way to get a hold of me, dneeson@neonet.org. So if you have any questions, let me know. And with that said, there's also a survey on slide 47 here. So if you're interested, you can fill out a survey for me. But with that said, that'll pretty much bring us down to the end. And have a good day. I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay safe, wash your hands, all that fun stuff. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks, everybody.